Okay, I'm back with the with the review for test 3, and I'm picking up, I think I left off at number 17, which is larger, negative 17.486 or negative 17.487. Now, if you notice, they're both negative. So be careful, because you want the one that is closest to 0, or the smaller one. So I'm going to, what I like to do is line them up, put one underneath the other, and since they're both negative, whichever one is smaller, they match up everywhere except here. So who's the smaller? So that's closer to 0. So that's actually bigger, because remember, in negative land, the closer you are to 0, the bigger. So the larger one is negative 17.486. And any of these that you have questions on, just feel free to email me, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So 18 we're going to add. So remember, when we add decimals, we line them up. And do we remember where the decimal is on the whole number? It's right after the whole number. So if you want to put a 16.0 there, you can, if that helps you. And then I like to line them up big to small. So I'm going to put the 16, I'm going to add a couple zeros, and then the 3.5, add a 0, and the 0.34, whoops, that point should be down there, and the 0.127, and I'm just going to fill in zeros. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. I just like to fill in the gaps. So line up, remember to line up all your decimal points. Okay, so now I'm just going to add down. So 0, 0, 0, and 7 is just 7. 0, 0, 4, and 2 is just 6. 5 and 3 is 8. 8 and 1 is 9. Bring the point down. 6 and 3 is 9, and bring down the 1. So my answer is 19.967. So with adding, all you have to do is make sure all your decimal points are lined up, and then add down. And same thing for subtraction. For number 19, I'm going to put the bigger one on top. I'm going to add a 0, and then underneath it I'm going to line my points up. So I always like to put the biggest one on top. So I've got 3.70 minus 1.98. So can I take 8 away from 0? No, I cannot. I don't have enough. So I'm going to borrow from the 7. And make that a 6. Remember, we borrow 1. So now can I take 8 away from 10? I bump that 0 up to a 10 because I borrowed 10 from here, from this second column where the 7 was. So 10 minus 8, I can do that. That's 2. Okay, now let's look over to the next column going to the left. Can I take 9 away from 6? No, too small. So I need to come over here and borrow. And I make this a 2, and I bump that up and make that a 16. Which really it is 160, but it's 16. If it's easier to think about it as 16, that's okay. So now I can take 9 away from 16, and what's 16 minus 9? Well, that's 7. I'm going to bring the point straight down. And what's 2 minus 1? So with subtraction, I always like to do a check. So I am going to add the bottom 2 together and make sure I get back to 3.7 or 3.70. And you can always punch this in your calculator and do a check as well. So 8 and 2 is 10. Carry the 1. 9 and 1 is 10, and 7 is 17. Bring the point down. Carry the 1. 1, 1, and 1 is 3. So I get back to here, so I know that 1.72 is the answer, and it does check. Okay, I'm up to 20. I want to change this fraction to a decimal. And do you remember what we did to change the fraction to the decimal? We long divide. So I'm going to take the denominator and divide it into the numerator. And remember, the point goes after, I'm just going to add a couple zeros, but the point goes after the whole number. If there is no point, it's just a whole number, it goes after the whole number. Like we did up here for 18, we made it 16 point because there was no point, so it goes after the whole number. So I'm going to divide 4 into 11, put a point after 11, add some zeros. Does 4 go into 1? No. Does 4 go into 11? It does. And I'm going to bring that point straight up. So 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. That's as close as we can get. So I'm going to subtract. And what's 11 minus 8? It's 3. And I'm going to bring down the next number, which is a 0. 4 can go into 30, or we can get pretty close. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 7 is 28. So I think that's about as close as we get. So 4 times 7 is 28. Just get as close as you can get. 30 minus 28, subtract down, that's 2, and bring down your last 0, and I'm going to move here, so I have 20. Does 4 go into 20? Well, 4 times 5 is 20. So it goes in, and when I subtract, I have no remainder. So here's my answer. 11 over 4 is equal to 2.75 as a decimal. So the answer is 2.75. Okay, I'm going to stop there with part 4. I'm going to pick up with part 5 on the next video.